Okay, let's be real for a second. Becoming aware often means figuring out how you hide all the ways you're terrified of being hurt. So welcome to the wonderful world of masking, or as psychology calls it, adaptive coping mechanisms. Fancy name, but it's basically this. When you feel vulnerable, like you're not good enough, you're not lovable, you're too much, too little, you throw on a mask to survive the moment. Now, don't get it twisted though. Masking isn't lying, it's not fake. It's a very real psychological strategy your brain invented to protect you when you were small. And it worked. Well, at least for a while. That was very creepy, sorry. At least for a while, I meant. Over time, though, these survival strategies, these masks, if you will, start to run the show even when we don't need them anymore. You're not just hiding from other people, you start hiding from yourself too. And that's when we need to talk about how defense mechanisms and masking is like your emotional armor. Sometimes it's healthy, so we call it adaptive coping, and sometimes it keeps you stuck, so we call it maladaptive coping. Regardless, the goal isn't to get rid of it, it's to understand it, because that's where it gets interesting. There are a few classic ways we tend to mask. Think of them like emotional costumes, if you will, and trust me, you're wearing one right now. Listen, I don't know you, but maybe you crack jokes when you're scared, or maybe you take care of everyone else so you don't have to think about your own stuff, or maybe you disappear the second you feel rejected, or maybe you overachieve so hard no one can see how scared you are underneath it all. So take this deep dive like an elongated personality quiz to find your masking type. Yay! And don't worry, I will insert tips and tricks here and there to help you with things, okay? So without further ado, this is Win or Mask, the ways we cope when we're afraid to be seen. So let's start with episode 1, of course. I think we'll have an additional episode dedicated to the soda kid though, because there's a lot to say there. Anyway, grab a snack, grab a drink, maybe grab a friend, and let's do this. All right, that's enough. But wait. Excuse me, what was about the mother there? No pressure. Right? All right, so we meet Laurie, the coach's kid, literally praying to all the gods to either hit the ball or get hit by it. Already we know, this isn't a prayer of hope, this is a last-ditch survival prayer. Laurie is wearing the performer mask here, the one kids put on when they know they're failing but think maybe if I just want it badly enough, it'll fix everything. Let me be very clear, when a kid starts praying for random miracles instead of trusting their skills, it's a huge sign that the expectations around them are crushing them. This tells us that Laurie has already tried everything she knows how to try, and it hasn't been enough. It's no longer about skills, it's about survival at this point, and a lot of the time this happens when kids are pushed into activities that don't match their natural personality types. The activity itself doesn't matter, the emotional stakes behind it do, because often it's not really about softball, it's about trying to bond with a parent who feels far away, the emotionally distant one, or the one that is leaving the household because, divorce. In Laurie's case, that's her dad, who's also her coach. So the sport is just the stage and the real performance becomes earning the love. That's why even when Laurie says, it's for me, for my team, it doesn't feel authentic because it's not for her. She doesn't care about the sport. She cares about being seen by her dad, by her team, by anyone who can validate that she's enough. At the same time, Laurie knows deep down that she's a liability for her team, and she's made aware of that by seeing how differently her dad interacts with her teammates. Kids are not blind, guys. That is an unbearable burden for a child to carry. The impact of the mask here is that when a child feels responsible not just for their own failure, but for the failure for an entire group, and they think the only way to fix it is by doing better at something they're not even built for, that's when you create a deep, invisible shame loop. Laurie is already trapped there, and she's trapped alone, even if she's surrounded by people. Talk about loneliness, eh? The healing here wouldn't come from telling Laurie to try harder, for God's sakes, please. It would come from validating her effort, not just her outcome, and from separating her worth from her performance. She needed someone, preferably her dad, to say, you don't have to do this to make me proud. I'm already proud because you're, you. Because without that kind of unconditionality, the mask just gets heavier. A key insight of the scene would be that when kids pray for miracles, it's usually because we taught them that effort alone isn't enough to earn love. I love how Rochelle gives her the classic team pep talk, you got this, we got this, rah, 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 go. But do you you see how for Laurie this is still a mask, still a performance? She's not hyped up. She's trying to be what she thinks she should be in that moment. And Rochelle is giving her a way to become that. This is the mask of the pretender, the one who mimics confidence and team spirit to avoid being the weak link. Not because they believe it necessarily, but because they think believing it is what good teammates do. And this happens because some kids are just not naturally competitive, or they are competitive but in other areas, maybe not about points or trophies or stats. Laurie might be competitive when it comes to approval or connection, but in this sport, in this context, yeah, she's not in it to win it, man. She's in it not to disappoint. So when she tries to hype herself up, that's survival. It's coming from pressure, from fear of being the reason everyone else loses. Then, to make things worse, her dad/coach floods her with a million different signals. Have fun, but don't mess up, but loosen your hips, but remember the signs, but be natural. Like, I'm not gonna lie. The first thing that popped in my head was, shut the fuck up, eh? Come on now, this isn't coaching. This is overwhelm disguised as guidance because her father feels that pressure too. And real talk, listen, this is not a general rule, okay? But if someone needs that much instruction before they do something they've been trying to do for a long time, yeah, it probably means they're not ready or not meant to do it. Calling something a mismatch isn't failure, it's just self-compassion. The impact here is that Laurie isn't just trying to be a team player, she's trying to be a cheerleader for other people's competence to compensate for her lack of it. Her supportiveness becomes another mask that says, if I can't be great, maybe I can at least recognize your greatness. But there's a quiet heartbreak in that logic because beneath it all, I hear a core belief. You all are valuable because you contribute. I am not, so I'll just clap louder. That kind of self-erasure is despair, really. What Laurie needed wasn't one more pep talk. She needed permission to say, I don't feel hyped. I feel like I'm pretending. I just want my father to want to have a relationship with me. Validation doesn't always sound like encouragement, okay? Sometimes it sounds like, I get why this is hard. So the takeaway from this scene, if you ask me, is that not every kid wants to win. Some just want to not ruin it for everyone else. And adults need to get better at spotting it, okay? Well, almost there. It's the thought that counts.
You'll get him next time, kiddo.
Question mark?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
You'll get him next time.
I'm gonna do it.
Oh.
You'll get him next time.
Yes.
You know, at some point that sounds so very condescending, but you know, we'll get there.
Back, Laurie, back!
She's trying, man. She's trying. She's being hit. Never mind. Oh, that was cinematic.
Out! That's game. Pickles, 5-4.
Okay, pickles. We love the pickles. That much I know. And then, of course, the inevitable 3 strikes. Laurie fails again, and the coach/dad shrugs it off so casually. You know, like, you'll get it next time. Excuse me, I'm sorry, but can you please stop fucking lie to your daughter? And perhaps, I don't know, take her struggles seriously? The fuck? But anyway, we can see another side of Laurie's mask, and this one looks like resignation with a smile. This is the optimist mask. The one we put on not because we feel hopeful, but because everyone expects us to be. This happens primarily because there's a moment in life, especially in childhood, when the line between persistence and delusion gets kind of blurry. Trying and failing over and over is one thing, but when the world keeps saying, you'll get it next time, and next time never actually comes, that phrase stops being hopeful, okay? It becomes a trigger, a symbol of false hope, and worse, a mirror reflecting back. If you didn't get it this time either, maybe there's something wrong with you. That's where Laurie seems to be now, stuck in the gap between the promise of growth and the reality of mismatch. Sometimes we keep trying not because we love something, but because we are terrified of what it means if we stop. For Laurie, stopping would feel like, you know, giving up on her father's pride, even on having a bond with him. She'd give up on the community, on being a real teammate, right? She'd have to give up belonging, basically. And because of that, she doesn't even notice that she's not having fun. Because somewhere along the way, she internalized the belief that this is not supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be worth it. But when it's not fun and it's not working, what exactly are we chasing? missing. The impact here can be massive because every "you'll get it next time" becomes a mini betrayal, a reset button on disappointment, a denial of what it's real. And when those resets stack up, kids like Laurie feel defective. They feel like they're breaking a system that everyone else seems to succeed in. Like they're the one thing that refuses to work no matter how many chances they're given. But not all hope is lost. Here's where the adult, the coach, the parent needs to get real. Sometimes instead of "you'll get it next time," we need to say, "Hey, how are you feeling about all this? Do you even like this? And it's okay if you don't. We can find something you like. I love you just the same." Permission to stop is just as important as encouragement to keep going, especially when continuing is slowly crushing your kid's spirit.
Oh,
Wow,
I
she is
can't
a
believe
support
it.
machine.
This is the happiest day of my life. Oh, I'm so proud of all of you. Oh, way to make that last play happen. Great catch. Oh, amazing play. You'll get him next time.
Ouch.
You bet.
Oh my God, did you guys see that? Oh, Dad? Laurie is expected to celebrate like everyone else, but she knows this wasn't her win. She didn't help. She didn't play well. She was just there. And still, she smiles because she's been masking for a long time, and when masking becomes habitual, even joy turns into performance. Remember the first Inside Out analysis? Well, yeah, you might want to look at it again, and this time try to spot the mask in there too. I mean, I'm blabbing about it all the time, so it's not hard, but you know what I mean. Anyways, then comes the final blow. Her own flesh and blood, the coach, walks down the line, high-fiving every single player except Laurie. For her, yeah, just a little cap tap, you know, quick, condescending, dismissive, not cruel per se, but you know, telling. I mean, you can imagine that in that moment, Laurie doesn't just feel left out. She feels confirmed in her deepest fear, right? I don't belong here. I'm not enough, and everyone knows it. That one cap tap says all the things her father hasn't said aloud. You didn't earn this. You're only here because of me. And for Laurie, who has been forced to live inside a contradiction, this translates as "you matter, but not like they do," which, ouch. That's where the real psychological damage happens, because the human brain hates cognitive dissonance. When two truths conflict, we'll twist ourselves into knots trying to make them fit. So Laurie's internal world sounds like this: I suck, but I'm also supposed to feel like a valuable teammate. But I'm clearly not, but I'm here, but I don't belong. And so goes the spiral, okay? All because her dad has not developed the maturity to model vulnerability. But I'm getting ahead of myself there. This type of mental tug of war is how imposter syndrome is born, because this causes identity fracturing. When your role says you're part of something, but the treatment says otherwise, that's when you don't know where to stand anymore. And kids, especially sensitive ones like Laurie, will always assume they are the problem. It's like that Einstein quote, you know? If you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing it's stupid. Laurie is a fish in a tree climbing world. And this celebration is just a reminder that she's not built for this, but expected to act like she is. You see, this moment called for repair, not routine. Her father could have paused and made eye contact, you know, and said, I know today was rough, but I see you and I'm proud of you for showing up. Treating kids the same is not a magic formula to make them all feel worthy, okay? The formula is to treat every kid like they matter, and in this case, help the child to find where they can feel like they matter, okay? Being included is not the same as being seen, and the loneliest place is often inside that group photo. Ask Mirabel from Encanto, you know. What the fuck is that?
This is good, because it's high stakes, and that's the kind we like.
Play 2 stolen bases.
The thing I like about your helmet is it still looks new.
Hey, stand up. Come on.
Well, after Laurie's latest failure, something strange and familiar happens from her sweat. We're talking about literally the physical evidence of stress. Anxiety is born. It's small at first, you know, cute even. It says things like, this is good, high stakes motivate us, which, you know, sounds helpful until you realize even her anxiety is masking. Did you hear that? This isn't honesty, okay? This is toxic positivity and emotional drag. When anxiety says, I'm feeling goodish, baddish, that's Laurie's emotional world, a split screen of extremes she has to manage alone. So this is where the show gets brilliant, if you ask me. Anxiety doesn't show up as some chaotic force. It shows up trying to help, but the help is misguided, let's say. It's full of slogans and silver linings and you've got this, but not really type of energy, because this anxiety isn't grounded in presence. It's grounded in performance. It mimics support while secretly reinforcing shame. Even if it says things like pressure makes diamonds, that has an assumption already that you need to sparkle. Then we see the moment of acknowledgement of how Laurie's teammates have stars on their helmets while she has none. And anxiety, again trying to mask the pain, says, well, at least yours looks almost as good as new. That's textbook anxiety logic. Avoid the truth, reframe it into something positive, and pretend that pretending is strength. Now, be careful, because when the inner critic starts using positivity as a weapon, that's when masking and anxiety merge into something deeply insidious. It becomes self-gaslighting, because now Laurie has a full-time inner PR manager, one that spins every failure as a quirky win? But deep down, she's still that same kid who struck out, who got skipped over, who doesn't have any stars, and now she can't even name her own disappointment because anxiety won't let her say it out loud. It's all reframed, all filtered, all fake. This is the perfect storm, okay? Shame masked by support. Support delivered by anxiety. Anxiety pretending to be motivation. And Laurie is silently, invisibly drowning in all of it.
Let me just take a look first. I'll handle this.
No.
Oh, that's not good.
Oh my god. Ooh.
I know how to handle this. Laugh really hard.
No.
Harder. I don't believe you. Come on. You win.
I don't believe you.
Why would you post that?
Because it's comedy gold.
You're just a sad little boy who is picking on her because you like Laurie.
Wow, she's uncomfortable. Damn.
Excusez-moi.
You win.
Suddenly she's French, ooh la la. Oh god, this is such an interesting moment. You know, a moment that should be humiliating is being passed around like a meme. And Laurie, instead of saying, wow, dude, that's really messed up, she laughs like aloud, over the top performative laugh. The kind that almost dares people to notice she's pretending, you know? This is the clown mask. It says, if I laugh first, you can't hurt me, but really is just another way of saying, I'm not allowed to be hurt, otherwise I give up my belonging to this group. This is what happens when vulnerability feels unsafe, and Laurie has already learned that exposure equals danger. So instead, she puts on the mask of the cool girl, the team player, the one who can take a joke, even when the joke is at her expense and it's also not fucking funny. This moment should have been a rupture point, you know, a place where anger, sadness, or even just discomfort could have broken the surface. Instead, it gets shoved down again, so the mask stays on. Then someone else steps in and Laurie looks deeply uncomfortable, because when you've committed to being okay, someone naming your pain feels like betrayal. And this is how kids get stuck in emotional isolation, even when surrounded by people. They don't show hurt. They don't ask for backup. They laugh at the pain, pretend it's fine, and let the mask do the talking.
That's a
Laurie,
driveway.
please,
Dad,
timing.
Wanna practice this week? I'm working on my 10,000 hours, you know? How about Tuesday?
Well, that's your mom's night.
Okay.
Divorce.
Yeah, that's not his name,
Okay.
dummy.
Oh my god, you're always there.
Laura, how about Friday? Friday's my day.
Oh, he circled back. That's
Yeah.
good. So anxiety
Stay with you for the
went
weekend.
away. Interesting. Laurie's not looking for logic in this scene. She's looking for connection. So she makes a bid. Can we practice on Tuesday? A bit of affection, I mean. It's about making sure she keeps the bond with her dad intact, especially since it seems like her parents are divorced, so the fear of abandonment might be higher than average. I mean, even though she doesn't love the sport and it gives her literal anxiety, she's still using it as a bridge to her dad. But he shuts it down with something simple and factual. Tuesday's your mom's night. And just like that, Laurie collapses inward. Here's where it gets real. From an adult perspective, that answer is perfectly reasonable. But from Laurie's perspective, it's not a reason, it's a rejection. Kids don't hear, I can't, they hear, I won't. Because as an adult, in their eyes, you can do whatever you want. Kids don't internalize logistics, they internalize worth. So even though intellectually she knows her parents are divorced, emotionally, it doesn't matter. What she feels is, I finally asked for time and it wasn't important enough. So that's when anxiety decides to return in the car. But very important, then the dad shows up and comes back to the conversation to reschedule, and in that moment he does something profound. He bridges that gap. He tells her, not through a speech, but through follow-up, "You matter to me." Now, you need to notice how this whole scene plays out without eye contact for the most part. Laurie's in the backseat, the dad in the front, no physical connection, no visible emotional warmth, just floating words in a shared space. And that's how most kids grow up, unfortunately. Trying to be receptive to love kernels and learning to decode love from gestures that are half there, half lost in distraction. When parents say, "Of course I love you," but act like their kid is just another line item on a to-do list, the child starts to believe that love must be proven or earned. And so Laurie, like so many other kids, asks for attention indirectly, disguised as logistics, because directly asking to be loved feels too risky, too much, too vulnerable, so we mask. Because masking is there to avoid vulnerability. And that, my friends, is a piece of information you need for your own mental health journey. This moment shows how healing doesn't always need big speeches, you know? Sometimes it's just circling back. Kids don't need perfect presence, okay? They need consistent signals that their presence is wanted, because love is something you show with your face, with your energy, with your availability, with everything. So remember, when a child asks for your time, they're not asking to be scheduled in, they're asking if they still matter.
How was the game?
Your thing.
Was it good?
The boxes.
Mom, guess what?
What? No, wait, oh, let me guess. You got a home run.
No.
What?
Huh. Did you get a triple?
Nope.
Do you know your
don't
daughter?
No.
So much
I
excitement
knew
that is
something
fake.
positive was gonna happen.
Yeah, wait to make it
So,
about yourself, woman. What the hell?
I'm not like to the game, but I will think about you. Baseball's your dad's thing.
Sure. It's softball, but...
Oh, but
Oh
maybe we
my
could go to
god,
Match
this
Jewelry
was
and pick out a
an
new
awful
course.
interaction.
No worries.
Let's open on a silent, crushing detail. Laurie glances at the boxes of her dad's stuff, most likely mid-divorce at this point, and her face changes for a split second. And for that split second, there's real sadness there. But instead of naming it, asking for help, or sitting with it, she shakes it off almost immediately. She masks it masterfully, which says a lot about her experience with it. So she puts on fake excitement about softball, because that's what kids do when they learn that sadness makes adults uncomfortable. Her mom doesn't notice, she doesn't pause, doesn't say, "Hey, I saw your face just now, are you okay?" She goes along with the guessing game of why Laurie is excited. Did you score? Make a triple? All performance pressure, zero presence, and it's like, do you even know your daughter? Why not start with, did you have fun? Probably you know she struggles with softball, right? This is the emotional equivalent of being hugged by someone who's looking at their phone at the same time. Her mom says the right-ish things, but she's not tuned in whatsoever. The only moment she becomes truly present is in the moment of panic after Laurie asks if she'll come to her game. "That's more your dad's thing," she says. Lady, are you joking right now, right? This is not about the game. It's about being witnessed. It's about having your moment matter to someone, especially the people who are supposed to, you know, love you the most. The fact that softball isn't her thing is exactly the reason why she asked her to come. Yes, maybe you don't care about it like dad does, but maybe your daughter will be able to feel better knowing someone is just happy she's playing, without knowing actually if she's doing well or not. See, this is what psychologists call attunement, the ability to notice, to mirror, and respond to someone's emotional cues in real time. And kids desperately need it to feel emotionally safe, because if you don't get attuned to, you learn to perform. You learn that what you feel doesn't register, so why bother feeling it at all? Children need shared emotional experiences, what we could call co-experienced joy, or even affective resonance. It's the simple act of feeling something and someone else feeling it with you, so you don't feel alone. That's how kids learn, oh, my world is real, my feelings are valid, I matter. By saying softball is more your dad's thing, she unintentionally tells Laurie, I won't step into your world unless it aligns with mine. But parenting isn't about sharing your kid's interests, it's about being interested in your kid. But when that doesn't happen, the child internalizes a new rule. Only show what they want to see, bury all the rest. Real connection isn't built on shared interests, okay? It's built on shared emotional presence. Okay, so it's Friday, right?
Dad!
No.
Hey, Kai.
Hey, Kai.
Laurie, be cool, be cool, be cool. Wanna
She's
practice?
cool already, so
Bad
please.
idea.
Try
Just make contact.
two.
Laurie, you paying attention? This is good stuff. She said to hit the ball.
Yeah. Do you hear like how obvious it is? Because it's not helpful.
Hit the ball, hit the ball, hit the ball, hit the ball.
Hey! Okay. Well, you know, there's always a good side and a bad side to things.
What
Yeah.
happened? Kai, are you okay? I mean, where does it hurt? Just tell
Dude,
me exactly
your daughter.
What happened?
Your daughter?
What did you do?
I'm gonna take you to urgent care.
Okay, I know this is from her perspective, right? And probably this is not how her dad meant it, but that's what she feels and that's what's important at the end of the day. Okay, so I don't want to sound dramatic, right? But this is one of those scenes where the entire emotional architecture of a child's self-worth collapses in a single moment. So, right after injuring the best player on the team, that's when Laurie's father decides to finally show up. But he doesn't look for Laurie. He doesn't apologize, doesn't say, sorry, I'm late, doesn't say, are you scared? Instead, he's fully focused on the injured teammate because, you know, she's the best player and if she can't play, they might not win. And that's when it happens. Laurie becomes invisible. Her mask doesn't even have time to go on. She's just gone. This is a world-shattering moment for a kid, and not because she got left behind, but because she got replaced in an instant. Her dad, the person she's been trying to impress and connect to all this time, just confirmed everything she's been afraid of. I don't matter like the rest. It's not just that he failed to show up, because he did that too, okay? It's that when he finally did, he didn't show up for her. This is where it stops being about softball and it starts being about attachment wounds. It's about being replaced in your own narrative by someone who's better, brighter, more lovable, at least in the system your parent seems to value. Laurie's whole internal belief system just got reinforced, and the worst part is that she has no language for it. She can't rage or cry or say that hurt because she's been taught to mask, to suck it up and smile and support the team. So instead of falling apart, she locks it all in and anxiety takes over. What Laurie needed was one look. 1 second of warmth. One, hey, I'm so sorry I didn't come sooner. Are you both okay? If left unrepaired, this kind of moment can become a core memory of abandonment, the kind that lives in the body for years. In the end, it only takes one moment to prove a child's fear right, and 1,000 after to undo the damage.
Please help me to be forgiven.
There. I'll never leave you.
Oh no, do not embrace her.
Let's just replay all the mistakes you made today.
Right, at this point, Laurie is spiraling, okay? Her anxiety is expanding, tightening around her like a second skin. Pretty terrifying. I prefer anxiety as depicted in Inside Out 2, thank you very much. Look at this. Every thought loops back to what she did wrong. Every moment of stillness becomes an opportunity to self-punish. It's so exhausting to even exist in this state. And because she's masking, constantly trying to appear okay, strong, part of the team, she has no access to vulnerability, which means she can't ask for help. She can't vent. She can't fall apart safely, so she keeps doing what she's learned to do. Work harder, try more, pray for rescue. She prays every night, looking at those luminous stars on the ceiling, but one night, anxiety literally gets between her and the light. It blocks the stars, the symbols of hope and guidance and belief. And that's when it becomes clear. Anxiety is isolating her from the very things that used to soothe her. This is a stunning visual metaphor, if you ask me, because it's almost as if the stars, this light or coping mechanism, her last bit of hope, if you will, are now cut off, and it makes sense. When anxiety grows unchecked and masking becomes chronic, you stop being able to feel anything but pressure. This is what we might call functional anxiety, where the anxiety seems productive, but it's actually driven by fear, shame, and a desperate need for belonging. It's not your typical, I'll try harder next time, you know, it's your desperate, if I don't fix this, I'm the worst person in the world. Actually, this is what makes this moment so vitally terrifying now that I think about it. You know, the force Laurie is trying to reach towards, God, the stars, the universe, that force can't reach back to her because her anxiety got there first. So in this very moment, we can see hopelessness being created in action. It's not the physical loneliness, it's the fact that emotionally, there's no one left to turn to, not even herself. When you're that deep into masking, even your prayers sound like pressure. Even your hopes start to feel like obligations. And the more Laurie isolates emotionally, the more anxiety thrives because isolation is its oxygen. So even in the quiet of her room, Laurie is never alone, but she's also never with herself. This is where an adult could have stepped in, not with solutions, but with providing a space and some language around her struggle. Many parents I counsel tell me often that it's very hard for them to acknowledge their children's internal world because they don't have the words or the skills to address them. But here's what I tell them often. You just need to use your eyes and then speak what you see. If you see your kid's energy low, if they seem apathetic, if they are uninterested, just look at them and say what you see. Like, you seem really hard on yourself lately, don't you think? think? Or, hey kid, there's a lot of pressure around this. Do you feel it? Because I surely do. Oftentimes kids beat themselves down and think that they're alone in the way they feel. So a good parent normalizes acknowledging the hard part, the uncomfortable, the inconvenient. When kids, but generally speaking, when people find themselves in this anxiety spiral, the last thing they need is someone trying to motivate them to do something. And very often that's what people try to do in a desperate attempt to get us out of that feeling. That's where instead of softening and connecting to someone, we tense up and go into fixing mode, into, here's 5 things you can do mode, without understanding that sometimes the best thing we can do is sit with someone in the dark until they can see the stars on that ceiling again.
The ball is coming, the ball is coming.
She knows that. Yeah, there you go. You see, anxiety works this way.
Are you serious, Luke? That was high.
Feeds you
I know, Martin.
thoughts
This is your life.
that are not
Your moment for
realistic.
greatness. Earn your spot on the team. Not everyone is lucky.
Oh my god, so much pressure. Thank you, coach. Oh, blinding.
Kiddo, are you having fun?
I don't think so.
Is your head in the game? Where are you right now? Can you wiggle your arms? Come on, shake it off. Be a noodle.
Oh, great.
Everyone is looking.
Well, let them look. I don't care.
There is so much good intention here.
I'm talking to my daughter here.
And there it is.
Am I good enough?
No.
People say I'm only here because I'm the coach's kid.
Well, they're wrong. I mean, they're right that you are the coach's kid, for sure.
You're not doing good, Dad.
It's nepotism. I mean, but like...
Coach, get your hand in the game.
It's never been about being the best. It's about trying your best.
Okay, let's go with it.
Wow.
Oh, the sign of approval.
Dad.
There you are.
Okay, I know the anxiety went down and everyone thinks it's a good thing, and it is, but just on one side, wow, this is so complex. I love it. So we're at the big game. I don't remember exactly if it's a final or whatever. It's high stakes, and that's all that matters, okay? And Laurie has 2 strikes, and she's visibly panicking, but finally, for the love of whatever higher entity you believe in, the coach, her dad, calls for a time out. Ugh, about damn time. He pulls her aside and asks a very important question. Are you having fun? Which honestly, like, don't get me wrong, I'm very happy he asked it, but this should have been asked like yesterday. But hey, we'll take what we can get, I guess. So of course, Laurie could take this opportunity to be vulnerable, okay? But then again, people around her don't model that for her. So instead, she masks again. She slaps on her "I'm fine" performance like a soldier putting on an armor. And her dad really tries to loosen her up. He tries to get her to relax her body through the noodle exercise, which is precious, but instead of helping, he seems to just make things worse. Why? Because now everyone is watching, and Laurie seems to be awfully aware of that, because she isn't just carrying her own anxiety, she's carrying the audience's impatience, the team's expectations, the weight of her father's faith in her, and about 100 other little things. This is where the classic advice, if you're uncomfortable, just say so, completely falls apart, because Laurie actually tries to say she's uncomfortable in the best way she has, and look at how her dad responds. Well, I don't care if everyone's watching. Look, the human in me loves this man. He's trying, bless him, you know what I mean? But the therapist in me just wants to... Sir, hello, hi, yeah. It's not about you. It's about how Laurie feels being watched, being exposed, being the reason the game is paused. Still, and this is crucial, despite the rocky delivery and overall emotional clumsiness, her dad does several things incredibly right in this scene. He creates space, he prioritizes her emotional well-being over the game, he refuses to rush her, even under pressure. And because of that, because someone finally protected the space instead of pushing her to perform in it, Laurie finally breaks. She lets anxiety speak so she can finally ask the question that's been silently exhausting her. Am I good enough? So here's the raw truth, okay? The moment Laurie lets herself ask that question, anxiety engulfs her. She becomes it. She's not a kid with anxiety anymore. For a second, she is anxiety, and that's accurate to a degree. After all, that's why vulnerability feels so terrifying, because when you allow yourself to feel fully, you also allow all the intensity you've been suppressing to the surface. The mask, the smile, the casual "I'm fine," it all evaporates, and without it, Laurie is exposed. exposed. But here's what's wild. We fear vulnerability not because it's weak, but because it feels overwhelmingly strong. We confuse the emotions that come with vulnerability, the terror, the shame, and the panic, with vulnerability itself. And we think those emotions will scare people away, but real vulnerability is choosing honesty over control, and that's exactly what builds connection. If Laurie had learned this earlier, if the adults in her life had modeled vulnerability, then maybe, as an example, that moment in the car could have sounded like, "Hey dad, anxiety showed up because I feel like making time for us isn't as important to you as it is to me." And for kids like Laurie, the lesson is, unless you speak your vulnerability out loud, people cannot know it and they cannot help you. Healing starts with you protecting the vulnerable moment, not fixing it, not minimizing it, just making it safe enough to exist and be talked about. Laurie's dad clumsily but beautifully does that here. He stays, he waits, and because of that, Laurie finally lets her real self, the messy, terrified, desperate self, be seen. Remember, vulnerability doesn't destroy you, hiding it does. And the longer you wear the mask, the scarier it feels to take it off. So we need to understand this question. Am I good enough? Because here's the thing. This question doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It's not drama, it's not immaturity, it's symptomatic. It's the brain doing what the brain always tries to do, make sense of reality. Even as a child, Laurie's mind needs logic to function. And to name it properly, this cognitive need for coherence is called cognitive consistency, the brain's demand for internal logic alignment. Her lived experience doesn't add up. She knows she's objectively bad at softball. She knows she's still on the team. Nobody seems to question this, yet everyone seems painfully aware of it. So her brain reaches the most logical and painful conclusion. I'm only here because my dad is the coach, which leads her to the thought, well, if that's true, I don't deserve my place, ergo, am I good enough? This question, more often than not, arises when someone's presence doesn't feel like it adds real value and they become aware of it. Or to phrase it a little bit more clinically, when perceived personal contribution is misaligned with group validation, it triggers identity dissonance. Now, here comes the father's response, and it's complicated, man. We first have a good old denial, no explanation though, no alternative reality offered, just a vacuum. Then, without meaning to, he lets his thoughts slip. Well, technically, it could look like nepotism, he says, and this for Laurie can very well be internalized as betrayal trauma, when someone you trust validates your worst fear, even accidentally. But then, mercifully, he course corrects, he shifts the narrative from skill to effort and says it was never about being the best, it was about trying your best. Now, on the surface, yes, sure, I can see the warmth. He wants to encourage her, and in the moment it does seem to help Laurie, but psychologically speaking, this is at best a double-edged sword. He did validate her effort, but do we hear how it also indirectly confirms her lack of ability? Do we hear the unspoken subtext? You're trying really hard and you still suck, but I love your effort. Still, for Laurie, this seems to be enough in the moment because vulnerability doesn't ask for perfection after all, and at last, finally, he offers her a fist bump, just like he did with the other players, and for 1 second, it's pure bliss, until Laurie hugs his fist. Oh god, my heart. A small, devastating sign that she's not just looking for validation, she is starving for affection, guys. Look, praise is fine and belonging is fine, but love, touch, warmth, reassurance, that's what she needed all along. Still, the anxiety shrinks because now it's out in the open. She's not good at softball. She's trying her best, her dad sees it, and for today, you know what? That's enough. Let's just call it a day.
I have faith.
That's always good.
I will get on base.
Go, girl.
For my team.
Sure.
For Kai.
Okay. For yourself? Of course not.
And for you, Father.
Oh my goodness. Now, after the emotional breakthrough with her dad, Laurie gets slammed, body flung across the screen, slammed by a gigantic softball ball. And if you're sitting there like, what the actual fuck just happened? Yeah, you're not wrong. So let's unpack it, shall we? Listen, her dad tried. I acknowledge that, but it's also true that it wasn't enough, which is an important lesson for parents everywhere. Raising kids isn't about effort alone. It's about having the right tools. That's actually what makes a difference between an adult and a parent. They have different skills, or at least they're supposed to, because when you don't develop said skills, your kid will suffer more than you. Her dad's big mistake here wasn't cruelty, it wasn't even neglect, it was incomplete guidance. He indirectly confirmed you're not good at this, while he directly praised, but you're trying your best, without any boundary around that praise, without any clarification that trying your best should not mean sacrificing yourself. So Laurie internalizes the message: if trying my best is what makes me worthy, then there should be no limits to what I give, right? Even if it hurts, even if it's dangerous, even if it erases me. That's why she calmly, almost peacefully lets herself be hit. And I need you to understand that this goes against any human instinct in the body. But we can see how much the brain has the ultimate say, because now that sacrifice feels like love, it feels like belonging. The more she gives of herself, the more she feels like she won't be abandoned. One thing that I particularly love is the animation choice here. The ball being dramatically oversized, absolutely brilliant. It magnifies the real danger here. This isn't just about a kid taking a hit. This is about a kid learning hurting myself is noble if it makes others happy. This is how performance-based love turns into martyrdom. And later it can turn into overwork and burnout, toxic relationships, and the inability to say no, and so on. Laurie's mask doesn't just hide her anxiety now, it hides her self-worth. It teaches her that to matter, she must sacrifice herself without complaint. And the worst part is that she feels good about it, proud even. Here's what should have happened. Her father should have responded with, you know what, kid? Maybe the sport isn't your thing, and that's okay. Your worth isn't tied to how hard you push yourself. Sometimes loving yourself means knowing when to step back. And then open up the world again. Let's finish this game, but tomorrow, let's brainstorm some hobbies or passions that light you up. I want to see you shine, not just struggle. Teach your children that knowing when to quit isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's an act of self-love. In the end, what I need you to remember is that teaching a child to give their best without teaching them to protect themselves is how we accidentally raise martyrs instead of healthy adults. So, if we zoom out from Laurie's story, what we really witness is the making of a contortionist archetype, when it comes to masking at least. A child who learns very slowly, very painfully, and almost invisibly that being herself isn't enough. That belonging comes at the cost of bending. That to stay in the room, to stay on the team, to stay loved, she has to perform, pretend, sacrifice, and silence herself. And it doesn't happen because anyone wanted to hurt her. That's what I find most tragic, actually. It happens because the adults around her were trying their best as adults, but not as parents. So they didn't know how to truly see her. They praised her effort without protecting her from burnout. They included her without actually acknowledging her reality. They reassured her without creating safe spaces for her doubts. And so Laurie internalized one of the most dangerous lessons a kid can learn. Love equals sacrifice, worth equals usefulness, and belonging equals pretending. By the end of the episode, Laurie isn't playing to win anymore. She's playing to survive, and that's why she steps into danger so willingly, because giving herself up feels easier than risking being unwanted. Let this be a lesson for when you focus on trying your best without also applying boundaries, discernment, and self-protection. If you embody the energy of the contortionist mask, you might smile even if you don't feel like it. You push through anything and adapt until one day you might realize that you have no idea who you are underneath it all. Here's something you need to remember if you want children or if you have them already. Unless we teach children that they are valuable simply because they exist, not because of how hard they try, they will spend their whole lives trying to earn a place they already deserve. After all, if you teach a child to bend in every direction to be loved, don't be surprised when they forget how to stand up straight.